dogs are smart.
Yeah.
They start
they're
watching
very smart.
patterns.
Yeah.
They watch. I have to be very careful, like where I hide mold. I don't always hide mold in bathrooms because I don't want him to think he's always going to find mold in bathrooms. Yes, they're a high moistured area, and like typically, if you're going to find stuff, that is an area where it is commonly found, right?
Yeah.
But at home, I don't train him in the bathroom because I don't want him to think that every bathroom he's going to find mold. So we're just changing up the scenery. Because dogs are just really smart. I'm like, sometimes I feel like he outsmarts me. So
I keep him on his toes.
I got to keep him on his toes. That's right.
What is going on, everybody? We are back with the What's Your Hustle podcast. I have Jordan from Blue Ridge. I knew I was going to mess it up.
Yeah.
Blue Ridge Mold Dog.
Yep.
And I'm going to keep that in because this is organic, as organic can be.
I love it.
So give us a 30-second elevator pitch of your business, what you do, your friend that you bring along with you, the whole thing.
Yeah. So Blue Ridge Mold Dog is a canine mold detection team. So my pup and I, Buck, we go to a house. We are doing a full inspection and ensuring that there's no hidden toxic mold. If there is, Buck is going to alert, and then we kind of go from there with our next steps.
Wonderful. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And the reason why you have Buck, which is a white lab.
Yes.
I met Buck on another project we were working on, is because they have a really good sense of smell.
Exactly.
The super sniffer. If you ever watch Psych, that's a really good show.
Yeah.
Gus, he's a character on the show. He calls his nose the super sniffer. But anyway, dogs have a really good sense of smell.
Exactly.
So they can detect the scent of mold way easier. I mean, would it be something that a human could smell? I mean, I guess if it's bad enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we can smell it, then we clearly know there's a problem, right? Yeah. But if we can't smell it, that doesn't mean that there's not a problem. And so Buck is detecting the MVOCs, and his scent is super sensitive. I like to just kind of put this into perspective. He can pick a teardrop off of a football field in a matter of a couple of seconds.
That's
so it's really incredible to watch him work, and we rely on our eyesight. Dogs rely on their nose. That's their best scent, or their best feature, if you will. Yeah. It's really incredible.
It is interesting because, I'm making a comparison.
Yeah.
When I open the whatever snack I'm eating, and I hear my dog jump off the bed and come downstairs and stare at me like she hasn't eaten all day. Yeah. I don't know if it's the sound. It's probably the smell.
It's the smell, probably. Yeah. Something that Buck's trainer had told me that really stuck with me is that, if we go into a house and somebody's cooking dinner, like let's just say spaghetti, we're kind of just smelling like spaghetti sauce, right? Like just general, like, that smells like spaghetti.
Yeah.
Dogs are smelling each particular ingredient as a separate entity. So they're smelling the tomatoes, they're smelling the garlic, they're smelling the oregano, they're smelling the salt. Like they can smell each individual ingredient. So that would make sense why when you're opening that package, it's not just like, oh, it's Cheez-Its. Like they're able to really zone in on what exactly you're eating.
That is
really fascinating.
I would like to try that.
Yeah.
Be able to smell like that a little bit, but it probably would drive me crazy if that was like my permanent sense of smell.
Yeah.
Interesting. I knew they had a really good sense of smell. I know it's very similar. So I've heard deer also have a very good sense of smell. I've dabbled in hunting, so I understand, wind and,
right.
how to pack in, pack out the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I've heard that deer have horrible eyesight, but a really good sense of smell.
Yep.
And it kind of makes sense. And now that I'm thinking about it, that's probably why dogs, their noses, it's always kind of wet.
Yep.
Is because the scent will stick to it, so they can kind of smell it a little bit better.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm still learning the dog piece of it too, because we got into this business more for the mold side of it. But as we, when I was down in Florida with this trainer and learning, I was just like, oh my gosh, there's so much about animals. I mean, I've had dogs my entire life, but this is definitely very different. I've learned so much about dogs just over the past couple of months. So,
well, he is a tool in your business.
Right.
and to fully understand the capabilities and what can be done and best practices and kind of how to maximize his skill set.
Exactly.
You got to kind of know who you're working with. Just like when we're working with cameras. I want to know all the ins and outs and everything. Obviously, a camera and a dog are very different.
Yeah.
But you want to kind of know what you're working with.
Exactly.
And I will say, just from, the previous project we worked on, it was very interesting because it's almost like a mindset shift from not only your perspective, but from Buck's perspective. Because, dogs like to play, especially he's a puppy. So it was one of those where, you can tell he was kind of like happy, and then it was like, all right, go time.
Yep.
Now he's kind of like focusing on what he's doing.
Yeah.
So take me a little bit through the process that you had to go through to get him to that level.
Sure.
Right? He wasn't born that way.
No, he wasn't born that way.
So walk through
Yeah.
that.
So we, based on some like health issues that I had and some things that we were experiencing as a family, we learned about mold dogs, and I can share more about that story if you'd like, but we learned about mold dogs, and it was one of those things that on a Saturday night we were laying in bed, and I had sent my husband a podcast about mold dogs. He had sent me a podcast. And Saturday night we were laying in bed, and he was like, hey, I think this might be a really good idea for you. Like, you're really into, health, and we're trying to figure out what's going on with our son. And we know this is such a great detection method. So Saturday night we decided we were going to get a mold dog. We didn't really know what that looked like exactly. But on Tuesday, just a few days later, we went to the shelter, and we were looking for dogs that, were good working dog breeds, dogs that are known to be, motivated. And we happened to come across Buck at the SPCA. Our oldest son was at a stay away camp. And so we were like, well, we don't want to get a dog while he's not here, And it's so funny how things work out, because we were walking out, and they have like an outdoor play area. And we took Buck outside to let him run and kind of just see how he was. And a lady came up to the fence and was like, hey, is that Buck? And we were like, yeah. And she was like, oh, I came to pick him up. And I was like, oh, gosh. I looked at my husband and was like, we're getting this dog. Like, even if it's not the dog that we send to training, like, we're taking this dog home, because he just was super playful. He was a great age. He was a great breed. He seemed very motivated. And we had only been around him for, an hour at that point. But I just had a really good feeling about him. So we got him. We were interviewing a couple different trainers around the country. We ultimately went with the pioneer of mold dogs, Bill Wittstein. And so we kept Buck for a couple of weeks, and then Bill lives in Florida. And so he had a job in Atlanta that he was driving to. And so a few weeks later, I drove Buck down to Atlanta and met with him there. Passed the baton, gave Bill Buck. And then that was in August. And then he stayed in Florida until December. So during that time, I would call, get updates. Bill was very transparent, was like, listen, if the dog, he's doing great, but if something comes up during training and I don't think he's going to be, a great working dog, we'll send him home and we can try again with another type of dog. Like, no hurt feelings. He's a big advocate for shelter dogs, but when you do get a dog from a shelter, you don't really know their history, right? So, and I'd only known him for like 2.5 weeks, so I didn't really know much about him either. Yeah. So he was in Florida until December, and then Bill was like, all right, he's imprinted, he's working great, he's doing all the things. He obviously made it through training and graduated. And then I flew down to Florida to pick him up, but I had to stay for a week for handler training. Yep. And so this was a training, it's absolutely necessary. Most people think if you're going to handle a dog, they're like, oh, it's easy. You just handle the dog, Yeah. It's much more in depth, and it's a lot harder than most people think it is. I was not expecting it to be as difficult as it was. So I stayed for a week, kind of learned what he had been trained on. Bill helped me with handling him. Again, he was a puppy at this time, so still very hyper, still very wanting to play all the time. And then we flew home, and I worked with him every single day. for hours. And I didn't actually go and start working with him out in people's homes for about 6 to 7 weeks because there was still a lot of bonding that we had to catch up on. There were still a lot of things that I wanted to, make sure I felt really confident on. And with anything, confidence comes with experience, right? So just as I've been doing it, I've become more confident and learned more, every single day I'm learning something new or feeling more confident about a certain skill that we're working on. But that's kind of how his training worked. And then again, we train every single day. So like before I came here this morning, I did his morning training session, and I'll train him 2 to 3 more times today. And that's kind of our daily work, unless obviously we have inspections, and then that's kind of a different day to day.
And the idea of the training is training and inspections can kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah. So we want to keep him calibrated, right? So part of what I do is I'm growing mold. I'm making sure that he stays calibrated because you can buy mold offline, right? That's fine, but I use that mold and I grow my own mold on materials that he's going to be finding in homes, drywall, wood, insulation, flooring. So all of those things are projects that I do at home. Most people are trying to get rid of mold, and I'm at my house growing mold. Of course, I do it in my garage and stuff, so it's not like a health hazard. But so just to keep him calibrated, keep his nose, calibrated. He eats. That's how he eats, is by working. And so in order to get his daily food, I mean, we don't starve him or anything like that, but he does have to work to eat. So that's part
provide.
of our, absolutely. And dogs like being stimulated, or any animal, like they like being stimulated. And so he actually, when we went on vacation one week, shortly after he had come home, nobody can feed him but me. So, when we're doing training, like nobody can do what I'm doing with him, but we had somebody come to our house and house sit, and she fed him out of a bowl. And she was like, he was so like, he didn't enjoy it. He didn't have to work for it. He was like, what, you're just giving me a bowl of food? Like most dogs would be like super pumped, but that was not his thing because he never experienced that. Of course, when we first got him, we bowl fed him because that's all he knew at that point. But once he was trained, that's like foreign to him.
Yeah.
So he was like, no,
it's just
thanks.
weird. And, for animals, like he doesn't understand it's a job.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't understand.
No,
he thinks it's just
fun.
This is just what he does.
100%.
This is what
Hunt.
he does.
That's what what dogs have always done, right?
Yeah.
So, he's going back to his roots, I think, when it comes to work. And it's not work to him. It is so fun. Like in the mornings, the night before inspections, I always pack my bag, make sure I have all the things. And the next morning, he knows that the next day we have an inspection. He'll go and sit by my car and wait for me. Like I'll let him go out to the bathroom and he'll wait by the car knowing like, it's time to go, Mom. When are we going? Yeah. So it is,
he keeps
he
you
loves
on schedule.
It. He keeps me on schedule. That's for sure.
So I want to back up a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of touch a little bit more on the training aspect.
Yeah.
Because he went through an intense
It was 1,000 hours of scent discrimination training.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So you go in and you almost have to learn, because you're still learning the mold side, right? It sounds like you have a little bit of background. We will touch on that.
Yeah.
That's going to be our next deeper dive.
Yeah.
But you're probably still trying to figure out, okay, what does the business side of this look like as far as, how do you work this process?
Yep.
And then you also have to learn the handling and all the aspects of the dog training, and then also maintaining, right? That calibrating that you're talking about. Because it's not just hey, all right, he knows how to do it, now we're just going to go. Because if you don't retain it, if you don't kind of keep touching on it, he's going to...
He doesn't lose the scent. Like once you're imprinted, he will always know that scent. The training is more so I can read him, right? He can't talk. So when he's alerting to me at a job and he's pointing, I know what certain points mean. If it's more wall, if it's more floor, if it's coming from above. Those things are so distinct, though, that like if you were to watch him, you probably wouldn't pick those things up. But because I work with him so closely in that way, I know his body language. I know if he goes into a room and every single wall is covered in mold, he acts a certain way. Yeah. He's not as eager to go in because he can't pinpoint. He's like, it's everywhere. So he's always calibrated, or he will always be imprinted. He is imprinted. He will have that scent forever. It's just a matter of his preciseness, his accuracy for pinpointing. sources and things like that, that is what we work on continuously, just because I want him to be the most accurate tool possible. And because he can't talk, it's really nice. Body language is something that I have to really hone in on for him. So, and the same with me, like if I change my pace of walking, like dogs are smart. I hide mold in my house. And if I hide mold in a certain area and then it's gone the next day, he knows that's like mold doesn't just get up and walk away. Right. So we have to change our training scenery. We go out to stores, we go to other people's houses. I change my pace. Sometimes I walk really fast and sometimes I go really slow because I don't want him to think a certain change of pace is a clue of any way.
Yeah.
I don't want him to think I train with containers that have mold in them, and then I train with containers that are empty because my scent are on those containers. And so I don't want him picking up the container scent. I want him to pick up the mold scent. Yeah. So there's so many components that go into it that you just never think about until you're doing it, or that you're in, this type of work. Different mold. I don't know if different molds smell different to him. I don't know that, but I train with tons of different types of mold. I grow mold and then I swab it and send it to the lab so I know exactly what I have at home.
Gotcha.
And then I buy mold and recreate it with other organic material. So he's not using like lab grown mold because that's not realistic. That's not what he's going to be smelling in people's homes.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of details that go into this work.
No, it's interesting because, and again, I'll make a little bit of a comparison to kind of how we operate.
Yeah.
So a lot of people will see like, oh, we're just taking photos. Oh, we're just doing videos. But they don't realize the detail that goes into it. Right. The angles, the lighting, all the different pieces, what lens to use, what lens not to use,
right.
How bright do you want your lighting? Like,
yep.
So to hear like, hey, for Buck and what he's doing, what you're doing, finding mold and figuring like this whole process, it's like, hey, there's a lot of details that go into it.
Yeah, very
it's
meticulous.
Not just walk in, let him go in and sniff around.
No.
Like it's because, the easy part is him smelling it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's the reading of it and then you understanding what it is, because there's a whole nother side of this business of what to do next. Right. So I know we're going to kind of keep bouncing, but I'm interested in how did you get into the mold business? Yeah.
So, I didn't grow up and was like, I want to deal with mold and I want to be a mold inspector,
It's like
it was
astronaut, doctor, mold inspector.
So it wasn't one thing that led us into this. I am a cancer survivor, and the type of tumor that I had, oddly enough, I didn't really read much about it when I was going through it in the thick of it because it was overwhelming in itself, at the time.
So, yeah.
But as I got well and recovered, I was reading more into the type of tumor I had, and it was very influenced by environmental factors. And that always kind of like, interesting. Kind of put that in the back of my head, didn't really think much of it. When I had my surgery and going through cancer, I kind of learned about the functional medicine space. And that really intrigued me because I found, I like a lot of people, I wasn't the textbook person to get cancer. I was healthy. I was young. I was, to have pancreatic cancer was not something in my, what I ever saw happening, right? I was doing all the right things, quote unquote. And so I really got into functional medicine. And in functional medicine, we really talk about the root cause. What is, we're not talking about symptoms. We're not addressing those things. It's what is causing these things to happen. And so, I came across environmental toxicities and mold and VOCs and all the things. And that always kind of stuck out to me like, I wonder, what in my life could have contributed to my cancer diagnosis, because I was eating well, I was working out, I was doing all the things that like Western medicine would have, encouraged me to do. Right.
Yeah.
At the same time, my son was starting school, and he started having some health things pop up that we were like, this is weird.
Yeah.
Like, he's never been sick. He never had gotten ear infections, never never was sick. I mean, I think by the time he was 5, he might have been sick like 2 times. So we were like, always thought we were a healthy family, you know, like all the things. And he started experiencing, brain fog and really bad sinuses, and they wanted to remove his adenoids and all of these things. And I was like, at the same time I was learning about functional medicine, like what could be contributing to this, you know? And so, we tested our environment. We kind of did all of these things, but ultimately I tested him for mold, and his mold numbers, his mycotoxins were very high. And I was like, okay, now what? Like, where is this exposure coming from? What's going on? Could mold be the reason that I also got sick? You know, so it was kind of like this rabbit hole that I went down, and my eyes were opened, and I was made aware of things that nobody talks about. Nobody talks about mold. Nobody, you know, there's a group of people that don't think mold can even make you sick because mold's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of was something that, you know, we looked into different testing types and detection types, and ultimately, you know, we learned about limitations. There's limitations to all testing, right? But when you're spending money, it's like, what has the least amount of limitations? And that's kind of where we felt a mold dog was the best option. And so that's kind of how, you know, I was seeing clients in my wellness practice having mold-related illnesses, what was happening to my son, kind of what had happened to me. I was like, I feel like there's just more to the story, and I want to know what actually caused all these things. Will I ever know if mold caused my cancer? No, but I know that I know I was exposed to mold. I know I lived in a house with mold. So I can only assume that it didn't help anything, you know. My son was exposed to mold. He was sick. Since he's been out of that environment, he's been fine. So it just, you know, it makes sense.
Sometimes it's, if what's the old saying? If it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
Yep, that's
or somebody
exactly.
doing a really good impression.
Yep,
no, but,
yeah.
That's
kind of our story with how we got into the mold business. And then, of course, I just wanted to learn everything I could because there's not a lot of information. Sometimes the information that I found was kind of influenced by people getting kickback and making money off of it. And so it kind of just led me down to wanting to learn as much as possible. And I'm still learning. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm really into the building biology piece of it now that I'm doing inspections. I'm really into, you know, I know how it affects people, and like I feel like I'm more knowledgeable on, but it's very cool to learn about all the different aspects of mold. And environment is such a big piece. I mean, you take 20,000 breaths a day, and to think that if someone's living in mold, like that can't impact their health is like very, you know, it's mind blowing that people don't think that that's something that they should consider. But I'm hoping that with this business, not only are we detecting mold, but we're also providing education and awareness, because it's just not a topic talked about enough, in my opinion. So that's kind of where we're at.
It's interesting because, like you said, mold is one of those where it's, you know, you have the, oh no, mold. But then you also have like, I mean, there's certain cheeses.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, there's mold on me right now. I was outside. If you go outside, there's mold everywhere, right? Yeah. And that's, I think, what sometimes people are like, well, I'm not sick from that, you know, and that's different. It's not. What makes people sick is the mycotoxins, which is a toxic byproduct of mold. And so that's what, you know, that's different than going out and, you know, leaves being moldy. It's different. And as well as a mold allergy versus a mold-related, you know, mycotoxin illness. That's when mold is colonized in your body, that's different than if you're exposed to mold and you sneeze.
Yeah.
Right? It's totally different. But most people don't know that. So there's a lot of things that could be, you know, the mold industry in and of itself has a long way to go.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like it needs to start with education.
Absolutely. And I try to provide that on my social media platform, you know, of, you know, different types of testing and what detection types and things like that. And it's not that one's better than the other. It's that sometimes people, I don't feel like, have all the information to make the best decision for them and, you know, their family. And so having all of the information that's unbiased is important. And then if you choose to do, you know, whatever type of testing, then you know going into it that you've made the best decision with all of the information, not just bits and pieces.
Yeah. That is a very loud vehicle. We moved here specifically because it was very quiet. So that's like a first. I don't even know if it picked it up. But
it's so funny.
I think our reaction alone will get people interested.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, like you said, mold is everywhere. But if you don't know it's there, if it's something that is affecting your health, I mean, sometimes, there's some families that live in their house for 10, 15. I mean, my parents, that's the only house I've ever lived in.
Yeah.
Or, when I was living with them, obviously. Yeah. And I was there for 17 years, right? They've been there for even longer. So it's very interesting where, and it might be something minor, but over time, it might have an effect. And then you have your situations where, a pipe burst. Okay, you definitely want to get that checked out.
Right.
You definitely want to have the team come in and kind of sweep and figure out what's going on. Because what I do know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
As a homeowner, I've tried to do
your due diligence.
Yeah. And it's one of those where it can populate so quick. You might think, oh, it's only a day or so.
That's all it needs.
It doesn't, and you might not even know it's there. It could be
microscopic.
Yeah.
It can be behind walls, under floors, in the HVAC system, which is what, people will hire us and say oh, well, I see mold here and I see mold there. And I'm like, great. If they've seen mold, they address it. I always say, though, it's not a bad idea because do you know where that's coming from? If you're just addressing the mold and not fixing why, in order for mold to be there, there has to be moisture. So if you're not addressing why the moisture intruded, it's going to come back, right? So, I think it's a good idea for everybody to just make sure because a lot of things are not things that are visible. I mean, 80%, I think the statistic is 80% of mold in a home is mold you're not seeing.
Yeah.
And so it can be easily overlooked. And that could be the answer to why people are sick or why things are, I haven't really dealt with a lot of structural issues as far as I've seen water and moisture in areas that I'm like, if you don't address this, it will become a structural issue at some point. But most of the people I'm working with are because, they have unexplained health symptoms or they've run a different type of test and they know there's mold, but they don't know where it's at or where it's coming from, So they're trying to pinpoint exactly where it's at. And that's where Buck is a really good tool.
Yeah. And I do know, like you're mentioning the different materials that you work with in training. Obviously carpets, insulation will retain water.
Correct.
But what I don't think people realize is drywall does as well.
Oh yeah.
It's
easy.
It's almost like a sponge.
It's a sponge. Yeah. I can grow mold on drywall in 36 hours. I mean, I have cake pans at home that plastic containers and I put water in them and I let them get, wet as if there were a leak or whatever. And then I just close the top and in no time I have mold. It doesn't take long. It takes, it can take 24 hours for between, a pipe leaking or basement flooding or, what I have seen too is, Friday I was at a house and the soffit wasn't connected to the gutters properly and water was getting behind the siding and got into the building envelope and there was mold all in the wall. And so it doesn't take long, but the house was beautiful. You walking in, you would have had no idea that there was any mold.
And added up over time.
Yeah.
Especially
who knows how long that had been there,
one
right?
One little drip could be there for years. You have no idea.
And it's not going to show through sometime. If you have a slow leak or a slow drip, that's going to take a long time before it's going to show up on your wall, right? Or on your ceiling. So yeah, it doesn't take long at all, which is unfortunate. Because basement floods, you think you've dried everything out, but maybe there was an area that was missed or something that got wet that you didn't realize. And the next thing you know, you have mold growth. It just needs a perfect environment.
Yeah. My wheels are spinning because it's there's so many different little scenarios, little situations where you don't realize it, but over time it could be. And again, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
If it's behind the wall, you're not thinking about it. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot a little bit,
Sure.
talk a little bit more about, we talked about Buck, we talked about that process. We talked about your background and knowledge around mold and what kind of got you into that. So now let's kind of work more into like around the business.
Okay.
Right. So from a business standpoint, how does the process work? Say I'm like, hey, I got mold. I need some help.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Okay. So most people either don't know they have mold, but they're kind of throwing their hands up and they're like, I'm going to get a dog as like my last resort, right? I've done certain testing. My air tests have come back normal, which happened to us. So they either contact us because they don't know what's going on, or they do know that they've had a leak or that something has happened. So what most people do, I always say, people can call me, people can text me, people can email me. They can however they want to get in touch with me is fine with me. I want to make myself available in whatever way is easiest. But I do recommend people go to my website and I have a contact form because that just gives me a lot of information about, you put in your address and your concerns if you have any, kind of some property details and things like that. And then I call, or however you've stated is the best way to contact you. I will contact you and kind of discuss what, if you've seen things, if you're suspicious, if there's a musty smell, if you've run other testing that have shown whatever type of results, if you're just not feeling well and you just want to make sure that your home isn't a part of that equation, or you're just wanting to be preventative, or whatever that looks like. And then we schedule an inspection time. On the day of inspection, I am a certified mold inspector too. So that is the longest part of the inspection is just me. I will do a thorough investigation of the outside of the home. I'm looking at your roof. I'm looking at your flashing. I'm looking at your roof lines. I'm looking at your gutters, your soffit, your grade, any, cracks on the foundation, siding issues, just any type of clue that if we then go inside and find things, I'll be able to put some pieces together. There's nothing worse than having some sort of testing and you get the results and then you're like, now what? What do I do with this? And so my biggest goal is to really find the root cause of what could be going on if we find things. So I do a very thorough investigation of the outside, and then I go in the home and I do the same thing in the home. I have tools. I have a borescope. I have a moisture meter. I have a particle counter. I have a thermal imaging camera. And so I use all of these as tools in the toolbox, right? I'll go up in your attic. If it's safe and accessible, I go in the crawl space. Again, if it's safe and accessible, I go in all the rooms, the bathrooms. I do as much investigative work as possible. And then I will bring Buck in. I take him through. He doesn't go in the attic. People always ask, well, does he go in the attic? I'm like, no.
Yeah, just go throw him up there.
No, he doesn't go in the attic. But I do, if there's an opening that I've opened and I've gone up the stairs, I take him to the entry and I can have him seek, and he can tell me if there's mold in the attic. Same with basements. He does go in the basements, but with crawls, like I take him to the opening of a crawl and he can tell me if there's mold in there. He doesn't need to go in. His nose is incredible. He can sniff it from a mile away. So I do a thorough sweep with him. He alerts by sitting. So he'll alert. I ask him to show me where it's at, and then I mark it with tape. After I'm done with that piece of the inspection, then I put him back in the car, put on his favorite jams, put the window down for him. And then I go back through and do a walkthrough with a homeowner and try to put pieces together. He always surprises me and hits on a place that, again, I will look at things that are visually suspicious, right? But again, I can't see through walls. So if he alerts on a random wall that I'm like, okay, we need to do further investigation here, I do as much of non-invasive, inspection as possible. So I'll get a thermal imaging camera. I'll try to see if I can figure out what's maybe going on. Because again, in order for mold to be present and microbial growth, there has to be moisture. So trying to put all of those pieces together with the homeowner. And then, of course, I suggest the homeowner, take certain steps based on what we find. I will say it's been very difficult finding trades that are mold literate. So I have a little bit of a hard time recommending particular companies because I don't want to put my name behind something that I don't know if they're going to do, like, knock it out of the park job, Yeah. But I do give my clients resources so they can vet out these different trades, questions to ask them, things to look for in particular trades, procedures to look, to ask them if they do. Because people in the mold community and that are super sensitive to mold, doing you have to go above and beyond in order to make these homes where they're not reacting to them. Because most people can't just move out, you know, and even that's not even an answer sometimes too. Like you still don't know if you're moving from one place to another, then you're dealing with, has this house ever had an issue, right?
It's going to sound crazy to say they might be the source of them. Like, not saying they are the mold, but like they might be doing something that they don't realize is creating the mold.
Yeah, like gutters, you know, like I've gone to several houses and the gutters, they don't have gutters, or they have gutters that are just draining right by the foundation. The water's not draining away from the house. So it's just sometimes a matter of like, all right, we need to make sure the grade is, you know, good. Yeah. So water's draining away from your house and not going into your foundation, because if it has nowhere to go, it's going to go in.
Makes sense.
You know, so just things that, you know, most people aren't thinking about. And not that I'm very lucky that my husband is a Class A contractor and has 20 years of building experience. So I always take pictures at inspections and videos with the homeowner's permission. And I run things by him because he has an eye for things that I don't necessarily have an eye for. You know, like I was at a job a couple weeks ago and he was like, for the pitch of that roof, those aren't the right shingles. I mean, I would have never known that. The shingles looked to be in good condition. Yeah. The roof was only 2 years old. So that checked the boxes for me. Yeah. But that's something that he noticed, that he's like, you know, those shingles aren't the right shingles for that slope. And so having his experience, he is mold literate as well. He's taken a lot of classes through the IICRC and some different organizations, that I have a second pair of eyes and more input from him too. So it's very helpful. And, you know, as I'm learning more about the building side and the building biology, I mean, that's my kind of goal when I get some free time, is to take some more courses, just so I can absorb as much knowledge as possible, because it's just fascinating to me. But also I feel like having all of that information is only going to be able to serve my clients better.
Yeah. No, and that's the goal, right?
Yeah,
that's the
absolutely.
goal. But, you know, obviously you want the knowledge and the information, you know, selfishly for yourself to make sure that things on your end are good. But
or I'm recommending things, you know, like I don't want to recommend something that I'm like, come to find out that's not the best recommendation, you know? So, I just love to learn. So I'm like, put me in all the classes. And if I could be like a lifelong student, that's kind of what I would do. It's been a joke.
Well, you're going down the right avenue, because
there's a lot to learn.
And business ownership and just the business you're in, it sounds like there's always going to be something new.
Yep.
So did you got into the inspection business because of the mold side of things?
Yeah.
It kind of, they make sense.
They go hand in hand. Yeah. And I don't do anything invasive at this point. That may change down the road, because I have, you know, people do oftentimes like, well, can you just drill into that wall and swab something, you know? And I recommend that, you know, I recommend other companies for that at this point. But I do have mold dog colleagues that in other areas of the country that kind of take on all of that IEP work themselves. And so I think eventually that might be something, so people aren't having to hire a bunch of different people. It can be expensive. And so if I can provide as much information as I can with my services, then that allows people to use their resources in healing their body, healing their family, healing their home, doing those remediation things, you know, because it's not cheap. And, you know, I don't want people to just be wasting money when they could be using their money to do things and for the certain resources that would best benefit them over time. Yeah.
So I'll say, I want to provide a little bit of free knowledge for anybody that's listening or watching. So what are some of like the signs you're like, hey, if you have X, Y, and Z, you should probably pick up the phone and call me? Yeah. So mold doesn't play by the rules. And that's another, I always say it like that because I feel like that's very like tattoo worthy. Yeah. Like, mold doesn't play by the rules. No, but you know, a lot of things, if we think of other chronic illnesses, right? You're thinking about heart failure. It's a heart problem, right? Like your heart is the problem of that. Mold is not something that looks the same on everybody. It also doesn't always look the same on all the people in the same environment. So I have clients all the time that, you know, there's 5 people in the home and maybe one person has something, another person has something else.
One person has absolutely no symptoms. One person can't get out of bed. It can look different on everybody. And that is for a number of reasons. Genetics can play a part in that. Your overall toxic burden, that can play a part in it. Other, things, the body works as one, right? So when one thing, if your immune system is suppressed, there's going to be other vulnerabilities. And so what I always say is, if you don't feel well, you've had symptoms that are kind of being diagnosed as random things, or you're doing treatment for something and you're just not feeling better, it's never a bad idea to look into your environment. Most people you spend a lot of time at home. I know in this day and age, we're so busy and we're always out and running around and things, but you sleep at your house, you do spend a lot of time at your house, and it might not be your house. It could also be, you have to think of other environments, school, work, like where else are you spending a lot of time that could be influencing how you feel?
Check somebody's car.
I do. That's included in my inspection.
Okay.
I do home. I do commercial as well. Any place that people are living, or spending a lot of time in, I will inspect. So school, house, work, all the things. But as part of my residential inspection, I do include the garage and their 2 vehicles on site.
Okay.
So that's included in our inspection. But, a lot of symptoms that I find in my practice and what I've experienced personally, gut issues, hormone issues, brain fog, nervous system dysregulation. Mold suppresses your immune system. And so when your immune system is suppressed, other things in the body have an opportunity to cause problem.
That makes sense.
And so that's why it can look so different. It also, if you have chronic Lyme or if you have other viral infections, typically those things they're not singularly the problem. There's usually more than one thing influencing, these flare-ups, if you will. So
that's just what's visible.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not, mold testing is not something that, as far as I know, in this area that doctors are testing for. Functional, we don't really have a lot of functional providers in the area either that actually take a functional approach. So it's hard, and people are left like, I don't know how to test. And I run mycotoxin testing on clients if I'm suspicious of mold, or if we've done other things and they're just still not getting where I feel like they should be. I'm always looking into the environment. So, headaches, brain fog, dizziness, vertigo, gut issues, neuropathy type nerve issues, because it affects your central nervous system. It can literally affect your body from head to toe in any capacity. Pandas in children, behavior issues, ADHD type symptoms, sinus issues, asthma, food allergies, like all the things. It can literally be a symptom, like it can be pretty much any symptom, right? And that's why I always say to people, that doesn't mean you have mold illness, but it definitely isn't something you should ignore, because a lot of times people test, they go to the allergy doctor, they go to this specialist, they go to this specialist, and all these specialists are looking at their specialty and not really looking at the body as a whole. And I kind of always like to say it's a yes until it's a no. So it's a problem unless I can prove it's not. Because I think that's kind of how you have to, you have a plate full of symptoms, and until you can start saying, well, it's not this, it's not this, it's not, that's how you kind of dial into what is the problem. And until you know the root cause, you can't really successfully address anything, right? Unless you're just treating symptoms.
Yeah.
But that doesn't get you anywhere in the long term.
No, you gotta get to the root cause.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of the things that, we're seeing in today's world, in today's society, about, just that people are seeing as a trend or negative, right? So ADHD is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
People make the argument all the time, oh, I feel like it's more relevant now than it's ever been. Same thing with different like food allergies and issues.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say it's, like you said, it's not just because of mold.
Right.
But
No, absolutely.
I'm interested in how much that's playing into that.
Yeah.
Right? Because I don't know, when I was growing up, there was no such thing as I don't know if there was no such thing. I wasn't aware to the people allergic to like bread or
gluten. Yep.
Right. That was not like, gluten free.
Yeah.
Now we're kind of moving that direction.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say, it's only because of mold, right? There's probably other factors.
Oh, for sure. Anything that's, your toxic bucket, it's kind of, and this is kind of more on my health side, but you have a cup, and if it's over, it's filling up faster than it's emptying, it's going to overfill. And when it overfills, that's when we're dealing with symptoms with chronic disease, with cancer, with fill in the blank of what's going on. And there's no denying that those things are happening much more frequently now than they ever did. I mean, when I was a kid, maybe a handful of people you would hear about having cancer, right? And now it's like you turn around and everybody that's probably watching this knows somebody that has been affected by cancer in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's just not like that uncommon anymore, which is incredibly sad. And
I will say it's sad, and I'll also say, and I'm not discrediting my dad is had his issues.
Yeah.
I feel like it's common, or it's becoming more common.
Yeah.
But also, glass half full, I feel like the I don't want to say technology, the medicine behind it is kind of helping a lot more of it. But it makes sense. Like, when I was a kid, it was like, oh my gosh, can't, like, you never eat the C word.
Like, did you hear, like, did you, so-and-so's grandpa, and that was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. And now it's like, I mean.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Kind of just one of those things now that I feel like everybody, we all know somebody, or we've experienced it. I mean, I think the studies have shown, like, I think by 2030, 50% of people will have had cancer. Like, that's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do strongly feel that we have a lot of control over that. What we put in our bodies, on our bodies, our environment. We take 20,000 breaths a day. And that's why, like, air quality and indoor environment is so important to me, because you're spending, you breathe a lot, And so I think food, water, and air are the three most important things to determine your health. So, yeah.
It's a very unique one. I'll say it's a unique business.
It is. Yeah.
Like you said, I think we were talking about, it might've been before we started actually recording, but you're one of 2 mold dogs in Virginia.
Yep.
And how many are in the country?
So I don't know that number. I know the trainer. So there have since been other people that have decided to train mold dogs. And so I don't know that number.
Okay.
There's probably, less than 100, I would say.
It's very unique.
It's very unique. Yeah. Okay. But the dogs that Bill Wittstein has trained, there's probably 40 of us. Lacey is the other dog in Virginia, and her and I work closely together. I'm very close with a group of, the kind of East Coast, some other dogs, but I talk a lot with the people that are, North Carolina, South Carolina, because we all kind of get calls, and most of us have to travel because, there's not a lot of us available. So we do travel. But yeah, I'm happy. I mean, I recommend other dogs if it's in an area that I can't get to, or they can't wait for me.
Yeah.
So whatever the case may be, that, there's enough mold for everybody is kind of our joke, is like, nobody has to fight over it because there's enough mold for all.
Yeah.
But yeah. I really, at the end of the day, the goal is we just want to help people and give people answers. Right. So we have tools that are allowing us to give answers to people that other tests often miss. And so nobody's fighting over who's doing what, because there's enough room for all of us.
No, and it's nice, and I feel like you can say that with a lot of different businesses.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and we're guilty of it as well, you get into this mindset of like, oh, there's no way I can even talk to another videographer. Like, it's like, no, oh my.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, if you guys everybody works together. My favorite saying is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yep.
Right.
That's exactly right. Because we've all walked different. Most people that get into this business have been affected personally by mold in some capacity, right? So it's not something that, again, people like a random Joe Schmo is going to be like, I'm going to get a mold dog. It's a big investment. It's a lot of work. It's hard, you know? And so I've come across things that, you know, at every inspection, I learn something new. I come across something I've never seen before. And so having other people that have been doing it longer, who live in different areas with different climate, with different, you know, building, you know, some houses in certain areas, they don't have basements. They only have crawl. So sometimes they know more about crawl spaces because that's the only type of, you know, system they have in their area. Whereas here, I mean, I do go in crawl spaces often, but we have a lot of basements. And so it's really nice to be able to, you know, leverage other people's knowledge, ask questions. You know, there's a mold dog in Arkansas. Her husband's an inspector and they work together. And so asking them, you know, she has the dog, he does testing. So I can kind of be like, hey, have you guys ever come across this? Or has this been something you've ever dealt with? And it's just really nice to be able to bounce things and help. My husband's a builder, so like they ask me questions for some of the building pieces of it. So it's really nice to have a community. And also before I, you know, was welcomed into the community, I was like, where do I start? Like you know, this is a new concept to our area. I'm new to doing it. You know, it's a new adventure for me, and I'm like, kind of feeling a little nervous and lost. And so it's nice to have people that are like, oh yeah, I've been doing this for 2 years. You're going to feel nervous and lost. You're going to feel not as confident, but the more you do it, you and your dog are going to have a bond. And I've seen that full circle. Like now I'm not nervous going into a house. Like I know what I'm looking for. I know Buck is amazing at his job. I trust him. I know enough about the building science part of it that I know what to look for. I'm not like, I used to, you know, call my husband and be like, all right, I see this vent. Could this be the, you know, and he's like, well, that's this vent. And so, but now I know what all those vents are, you know? So it's continuous learning. But I mean, I love it. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Different environment all the time, literally.
No, that's it, literally.
Literally different every day.
Hopefully you don't have repeat offenders, right?
I know. Well, I've been doing it long enough now that people are calling me for post remediation to come out before things get put back together. So, you know, and that's really cool too. Buck's super sensitive. So sometimes I'm like, don't freak out if, you know, there's different situations here. If you're super sensitive, then we need him to be super sensitive. And so, but yeah, it's, we hope not to have repeat offenders, right? We hope that remediation jobs or remediation companies do the proper containment and negative air pressure and all the things. But again, I don't think any trades are doing things out of like they're trying to mess things up or they're trying not to do things thoroughly. It's simply that they just don't have the knowledge, you know, they don't know how mold can really be, they don't understand the science behind it. It's not that these companies are like, oh, I'm going to do this job at 50%. It's not malicious at all. Yeah. It's just, there's just not a lot of resources for them to even, you know, you have to go out of your way to learn about mold. It's not falling into your lap, coming on a paper, or you have to put in, you know, effort and sign up for classes, and finding those classes aren't always easy. So you have to have connections, and it's just like, it's a new world out there, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Just the whole idea, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't think about it. You're going through your normal routine of life, and you know, you and again, not every case is, oh, you have some illness that the mold is
right.
It could just be there,
right?
And you want to kind of, it does sound nice that, so you'll go out, you know, first time just to kind of see what's going on. You don't do the remediation, but you help connect them with options.
Yeah. I don't do the remediation, and I recommending companies to do remediation. Instead of saying, go to this company, I say, these are the things you need to ask questions about. These, you know, you can vet these people on your own, because you may feel a certain vibe that I don't feel, or, you know, you have to do what's best for your family ultimately.
Yeah.
So these are the questions that you should ask. This is what you want to make sure they're doing while they're at your house. Are they doing proper containment? Are they putting up the 6mm plastic? Do they have HEPA air scrubbers? These are the things, because if you ask those questions to somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, you're going to know. They're going to be like, no, you don't need to do that. And that's a red flag, and you're not going to hire them, right? Yeah. So yeah, I don't do any of the next steps things. But I do try to equip people with the knowledge that they need in order to hire the best people to do whatever is needed.
Yeah. And then you'll come back, you can come back out after.
Yep.
Once the quote unquote dust settles.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then make sure at least the issues that were there before are taken care of. Right. Like you said, Buck is super sensitive.
Yep.
So he might hit on something.
Yep.
But that's
so then we're like, okay, now what could that be?
Yeah.
You know, like was something just not cleaned all the way? Was there a piece of something that was left behind? Was a piece of wood left? You know, there's a lot of scenarios that can happen. But what I don't want to see happen is somebody has remediation done. They put their bathroom back, let's just say a bathroom back together, and it looks beautiful. And then they're still sick. You've just spent a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the problem has not been solved. And so that's why I love Buck in particular. I mean, he's super cute and I'm partial to him, but I love that he is helping us find the source of the problem. You know, it's not like an ERMI, and I'm not bashing an ERMI, but it's a dust sample, right? And so it's dependent on spores and the DNA and all the things. But if you take one ERMI and swab your entire house and it comes back and the score is super high, you don't know where the mold is.
Yeah.
You just have this score that makes you feel super nervous. You're freaking out.
Yeah.
You're fearful. And now you just want to burn your house down,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not helpful. Or you get an air test and the air test is dependent on spore count. Well, depending on the situation, those spores may not be in the air. Also toxic mold, they have to have transport. So dust, dirt, and things, it's not floating. It's fallen to the ground or fallen on a surface, right? So there's a lot of limitations. And I mean, I will speak to my experience personally. We had air testing done at my house. Everything was great. There were problems.
Yeah. I feel like again, we're talking about that toolbox.
Yeah,
it's a good
absolutely.
tool to have.
Absolutely.
But it shouldn't be the only tool.
Absolutely. And I say, you know, the same goes for Buck. Like he alerts. If I'm recommending, you need to look into this further, somebody else is going to have to come in to do a cavity sample or something because I'm not doing that yet, But what I love about him and what I think should be noted is that if he's alerting it to an area, then you have a better idea of where that further investigation needs to take place. Right. Versus hiring somebody to do 12 air samples throughout your house. That's not really, it's probably going to miss stuff. And then B, that's just expensive because you have 13 samples going on.
Yeah.
Versus you have us come through, we mark a couple places. Now only 3 different samples need to be taken versus 12, right? Yeah. So, and he's going to be able to get that stuff that's hidden, which is, I mean, if it's visible, you're going to see it. You don't need us to come in if it's visible. What I will say is if you see visible mold and you don't know where it's coming from, then you need to figure out hiring us is a good idea because then we can figure out where this is coming from to avoid further issues.
Because you're only seeing the surface level.
Right.
Literally the surface, right?
Yep.
You're not seeing what's going on behind, and it's got to be coming from somewhere.
Right.
So one of the things I was thinking about, so do you do anything as far as insurance? So like not so much does insurance cover your service, but like I'm thinking about like insurance claims, right? Yep. Water damage, or if something happens to somebody's home, they're going through their insurance. Is that something that you can kind of get worked into there? Can people kind of, hey, we want to bring this person in to kind of help with it? How does that work?
Yeah, so I haven't had anybody actually ask to do. I think insurance with mold is from what I've heard, is very difficult to have that covered anyway, like flooding. It has to be within a certain time. And then normally in that time, you don't really know yet if you've had mold growth. And so I cannot speak on exactly like how that process would work. I do know that I have met with IEPs that like write up a full report, and people can submit that to insurance. But I'm in a Mold Alliance group with other mold professionals from all over the country. And there are people specifically that are like adjusters for insurance companies dealing specifically with mold. And so I would refer them to them. Gotcha. Somebody that's more in their lane,
that makes sense, yeah.
Because I'm just not super familiar with that. And I don't do a formal report at this point. Right now, I do a follow-up email with things I would address and take further, investigation on, and kind of resources and educational documents and things like that. But I'm not doing like pictures and reports like what one would probably, like if they hired like another type of IEP company, they're going to give you like pictures and what was found and things like that. Because what we're finding is not visible, other than like I can take a picture of my particle counter that's showing, a lot of microns that are the size of mold spores, or I can take a picture of my boroscope camera. I've stuck my camera into, a place that it could fit and I find mold there. I can take a picture of that. And I save that stuff on a document or on a drive at home that if we needed to refer back to it or whatever, I have it. But I always show the homeowner those things, and they're normally with me when I'm walking around doing inspections too.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's been very informational.
Yeah.
How do people find you?
Yeah. So, the best way to find me is my website. It's blueridgemoldog.com. Very original. I also am fairly active on Instagram. It's just Blue Ridge Mold Dog. I do have a Facebook page. Any of those ways are the best way to contact me. My phone number, my email, my website, they're all on all of those platforms.
Okay.
So if, I'm pretty easily accessible, I would say. And I always just say, fill out that contact form. So it gives me kind of information that I can kind of look over before I contact you. So I have, that's how I do quotes and things like that.
Yeah.
And people always ask how much does it cost? Because obviously that's a very important factor.
By all means, I don't try to push price, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, I have nothing to hide. I mean, I feel like I'm very transparent with it. It's based on square footage and travel. So I do an all-inclusive price. And then if I travel, I normally, if it's over 3 hours, I tend to spend the night and I try to get a couple of inspections in the area. So I give, people posts on their local Facebook groups, or they know people, or if they're working with a functional medicine doctor in a different area, they tell their functional medicine doctor, and their doctor's like, oh yeah, this, and this. These people need, should kind of get their houses
the most efficient.
Yeah, make it the most efficient. So like I do travel 1 to 2 times a month right now, 1 to 2 times a month right now. And try to make, I'm going to New Jersey in a couple weeks. I have 3 inspections when I go to New Jersey. I'm going to Morgantown. I have a couple in Morgantown. So I just try to make it. But local inspections, I can get people in usually within a couple of weeks. He's staying busy. And right now we're only doing 1 inspection a day because I do spend a lot of time doing my inspection. And I don't want to be rushed. And I don't want to, be on a time crunch that I feel like I need to rush through the process. Because I think when people hire me, they deserve to get a thorough inspection. So, and
on average, how long does an inspection take?
So that will depend on square footage, right? Depend on the
sense.
Size of the house, and also depends on what we find. But I would say
that does make sense.
Yeah, I would say generally a good estimate is like 3-ish hours.
Okay.
I don't typically do it's typically not less. On Friday, I was at a really big house, and it was a 5-hour inspection. Buck's part in that was about an hour. So the rest of it was me crawling in the crawl space, crawling in the attic, looking around, trying to figure out what was going on because he had alerted on exterior walls. And obviously I don't want to tell people I don't want to fear-monger them. So I'm trying to figure out what is going on and put all the pieces together. So it can take a while, but it'll be based on size.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Because, and then also the factor of if there's a lot going on, or if there's not a lot going on.
I mean, we do a lot of negative searches. So he's not expecting to find mold when he goes into places. I've had that question, well, you train, he thinks he's going to find mold everywhere. Do you find mold everywhere? The honest answer to that is the people that call me are sick. And so yes, typically we do find mold, right? Yeah. We're finding mold most of the time. However, we do a lot of negative training. So he's not expecting to find mold. He's not going to sit just because he wants to eat. That's kind of something that people have asked. No, he eats before he goes to work. He's not hungry going into work. Yeah. He's motivated because he wants more food, but he's not starving and I'll just sit so I can get food. Yeah. That's not how it works. We do a lot of training with no mold. That way he knows this is your job, but you're not always going to find mold. Yeah. So
it sounds like there's a method
a method to the madness, and I have to continuously change things up because dogs are smart. They start watching
very
patterns.
Smart. Yeah.
They watch, I have to be very careful, like where I hide mold. I don't always hide mold in bathrooms because I don't want him to think he's always going to find mold in bathrooms. Yes, they're a high moistured area. And like typically if you're going to find stuff, that is an area where it is commonly found, right?
Yeah.
But at home, I don't train him in the bathroom because I don't want him to think that every bathroom he's going to find mold. So I have to be very strategic because he starts picking up on these clues and like where we're hiding stuff. And that's why we go to Lowe's and Home Depot and stores and all the things. So we're just changing up the scenery because dogs are just really smart. I'm like, sometimes I feel like he outsmarts me. So I
keep him on his toes.
I got to keep him on his toes. That's right.
So what my kind of final question that I kind of hit everybody with is what does the future look like? What's next? Any crazy plans, or it's just kind of keep learning, keep moving forward?
So interestingly enough, I think my goal in the next couple of months is to work more locally in our community. I have been traveling quite a bit recently, and I think in this area, it's just a lack of awareness. And so I think my goal is to really bring awareness to mold and how mold can impact our health. I also want to sign up for some classes that will require me to travel. And it's like this really hard balance because I want to be home so I can do inspections, but I also want to learn, which takes me out of working. So it's like a balance that I'm trying to figure out.
It's an investment.
It is 100%. And, summer's approaching. And of course, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, how is this going to work with the kids? This is like the first summer that I've worked. My wellness clinic is virtual. So I've had that flexibility of being home with them. And, now this obviously takes me out of the house, and my schedule is ever changing and my hours are ever changing as well. So, obviously my goal is to keep doing, right now I'm doing about 3 inspections a week, which is really great. But my goal is to do like 20 inspections a month. And I'm not working on the weekends unless I absolutely have to, which I certainly will best accommodate. But,
work-life balance is important.
Work-life balance. My kids are involved in a lot of sports and I don't want to miss something that could wait an extra 24 hours, Certainly I do my best to accommodate people, but I think long term, I would love to have a second dog and another handler.
Interesting. Okay.
But that is
that's a whole nother.
It's a whole nother thing. It's a
challenge.
It's absolutely, and it's a big investment. It's like I could have had a new car, but instead I have a dog. Which I love. I love Buck, and I think he was worth every penny. But it's not something you just do on a fluke. It's definitely a thought out process. But I would love to eventually expand and have another dog working and somebody else, another handler. But I don't know. We'll just see where it takes us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I didn't even think about like a whole nother dog. So would the goal be to where you could kind of work with either dog, or it's like, hey, I'm working with Buck, and then whoever the other person would be mainly with that. Okay.
Yep. Okay. I know a couple handlers that I know in other states. They are expanding their team. And you want that dog and that handler to have a bond, right? So like that dog would stay with whoever's handling it and live with them and train with them. And because I know how to handle a dog now, I certainly would probably be able to handle them, but every dog's different too, So it's like I might know I don't know their quirks. I don't know their things. Like Buck has a thing where if, he'll pull back on his leash if it's really bad in a certain area. And so those are things that if my husband were to try to handle him, he wouldn't know that about him, Yeah. But that's like very long term. I have another dog alongside Buck and just as like our family pet, and the thought of having a third dog is very overwhelming. Yeah. So it wouldn't be for a while. And Buck has, at least about 7 years of work left. Yeah, he'll work until he gets to retire. Yeah. So at some point we'll have to, get another dog to have him trained and ready to go by the time, Buck would be phasing out and not working as much. But that's all very like long term. But I would love for, this to be more full time. It's keeping me very busy right now, but I know there's a lot of room for growth. So, and there's a lot of people that need our help that may not know it yet. You know, it's just something I'm hoping that like we reach the audience of people who are like, interesting. I've done all of these things and I've never checked my house, or I've checked my house and they've said everything is fine, but I still don't feel better, or this environment still makes me feel bad, or I leave. And then when I feel better when I leave and I come back, like that's that's a sign. If you're feeling better outside of your home, something's going on in the house, you know, whether it's mold, whether it's other things. There are certainly EMFs, and there's a lot of things that go into having a healthy home. Right. Yeah. But mold is a big one. So
yeah, there's so many questions. Cause like now, like thinking about like, there's a time frame with Buck, right? Mm-hmm. Right now he's a young buck.
Yeah. He's a young buck. He is.
But over time, he is going to get older. Yeah. Right. So eventually he's going to get to the point where he has to retire. Right. Become just the stay-at-home pup and do what he's going to do.
Which
there.
I just can't even imagine that, honestly. Like, he's crazy at home. He's 1-ish. We don't really know. And like at work, he's cool, calm, and collected. He puts his vest on. He does not mess around, you know. But at home, he is a typical puppy. Like,
it's so funny how it
puts his paws up on the counter, and we're like, no, and my husband, the joke was when we got him, like, he needs obedience training. And I was like, yeah, but I don't want him. Like, I want him to be good at his work. I can deal with him not being like, jumping on the couch. I can deal with that. Yeah. Like, because again, like, I don't want somebody to teaching him how to sit, because sitting is how he talks to me. Right. So it's like, I don't want to be messing him up, and he's really darn good at his work. So let's not
is he sitting because he's being good? Right. Or is he sitting because there's mold here?
Exactly. Yeah. Like when we give him, he doesn't get many treats, but like when he does get a treat, like I don't let him sit. Like, you're getting it standing up, because I don't want you to think that you're sitting for, this is food, quote unquote.
See, it's so interesting. The
mindset.
Like, I have 2 dogs, and it's okay. You go out, go to the bathroom, come back in, sit. You get a, we have a small little cookie, right? Yeah. That's the reward system, right? Because we want them to go to the door, right? We want them to go. Now they're at that point, yeah. But with Buck, it's probably a little bit different. It's like, different. No, I don't want you to do the normal thing. Don't be a normal dog.
Well, and another thing, which is kind of funny, and we have since outgrown this, but like when we got him from the shelter, they said he was like potty trained, right? Well,
likely story.
Mm-hmm. He wasn't like terrible, but he's slept in his kennel from day one, like since he's been with us. But he would like pee in the house, and I would be like, come on, like, no, putting his face in it, no, like whatever, putting him outside. But now it's like his trainer said something that stuck with me, and he was like, be careful how you discipline him, because he associates feelings with rooms. And I was like, okay, I mean, that makes sense. Like, I don't want him to be afraid of kitchens, because that's where he gets yelled at for putting his paws up on the counter, right? Because he has to work in kitchens. And so I don't want him to have a bad vibe. And I will say Buck's a little sensitive. His trainer called him Sensitive Sally when he was in training. He is like, if he does something wrong and he's put in his crate, like, he wants to please. Like, he is a pleaser. And so, like, I have to be careful, like, with my kids yelling at him. I'm like, guys, like, don't yell at him, because, I don't want him to associate being in trouble with this particular room, because he needs to work in these rooms in various different housings. So it's very interesting. But I will say, he's a working dog first. He is. But he is our pet. I mean, we take him to hockey with us, all of our sports. He goes everywhere with us.
Are you like out at like these different places, and he's just like, yo, check this out?
People always say, they're like, am I moldy?
Yeah.
No,
have him sit just to mess with him.
No, he, I do put his vest on him just so people don't come up and like pet him and stuff. I mean, if they ask me, I'm fine with that. But with like other dogs, it's getting nice out, so there's other dogs out, and he's great with other dogs. He loves other dogs, and sometimes we say he has like a Mariah Carey loud pitch like squeal when he sees other dogs, and I won't let him play. Like at hockey, he's so loud and he'll like squeal. But when we go to houses, I don't want him associating with other animals. He's there to do a job. Yeah. He's not there to play. He's not there to be pet. He's not there for any purpose other than doing what he's supposed to do. After he's done, sure, they want to play, great, whatever. But I have to kind of set more boundaries, I think, is the main part of it, is like, he sleeps in his crate. He, yes, he's a family dog and he like loves and snuggles on the couch with us and all the things, but like, he has boundaries that we have to be consistent with, because like I'm the boss, and you need to listen to me and follow what I'm, sometimes I've had to reel him in a couple times when he thinks he's the boss, or he tries to pull me, and I'm like, no. You're following with me, you know, because I can watch you. I need to be able to watch your nose and make sure you're doing an up-down motion and all the things. If you're in front of me, I can't see anything that you're doing, you know? Yeah. So.
It's interesting because, like, our dogs, we did potty training through the crate, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, keep them in the crate. As soon as they leave the crate, take them outside, let them go. Positive reinforcement, bring them back in. Because we got our first dog when she was a puppy. Okay. Like, weeks old.
Yeah.
And then
it's
Buddy
like having
was
a newborn.
Yeah. Yeah.
The middle of the night bathroom breaks.
Yeah. And then Buddy we got when he was a little bit older. He was already house trained and everything. And just, I'm thinking of going through like the puppy phase and like house training and the whole thing. And then adding on top of that, like, oh, and there's a whole nother set of rules for like the profession that they do. I'm just like, I don't think I could keep up with that.
What the thing that has saved us the most was getting him to be off leash. He had never been off leash, and we have land. And so we've never had dogs that needed to be on leash. And this, you know, he came home with us and he had to be on a leash. I'm like, this is annoying. And so like, it was summer when we first got him. So I was like, I don't mind going out with him. It was beautiful out, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But when he got home from training, it was December. It was cold. I was like, we've got to figure something out because and I will say, he's great off leash now. We have a invisible fence. He has boundaries, all the things. But when I take him out on jobs now, he's not great at going to the bathroom on a leash because he's kind of had like free reign at home to like walk around. Yeah. He'll hold it. He'll never go to the bathroom in people's houses. But sometimes I'm like, all right, dude, I know you have to pee because I give you water every time I bring you back out to your crate. But he's just like so used to being off of a leash now. But that has saved us because we can just like let him out. And he can go play and do whatever and get we call it the zoomies. He gets his zoomies out. He runs around he's made his paws bloody from running so much and just doing laps around our yard or in our driveway or whatever.
Burn that energy.
And then he comes in and sleeps. I'm like, man, what a life. Yeah. He's got the
Work
life.
a little bit, run around a little bit, sleep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's, we've luckily had a fence in every house that was one of like the mandatory things. Yeah. When we bought our first house, when we moved into the house we're in now, we put up a fence. We're like, nah, this is like, it's got to be because we'll take them on walks. Right. Now it's a little bit more difficult with 2 kids. Yeah. But it's so convenient just to be able to kind of open the door, let them out, let them do their thing.
Or if a kid accidentally leaves the door open, you're not worried about where's this, you know, for the couple weeks that Buck was home, we had to be super careful with our kids because I was like, guys, he did run away. Like we were on dirt bikes. All of us were on dirt bikes running. Our property kind of backs up to Snowden Bridge. So like we were frantic because we had put a deposit down on training and we didn't have a dog. The dog was gone. And what was so funny though, and we like, the dog didn't know us. Like I was like, he's never going to come back. He's lived this life. He's been bouncing around from shelter to shelter. Like he has no ties with us. And it was so funny because after like an hour and a half on a hot day, I had run 3 miles around just running. I had finally gotten in my car and driven down the road because I was like, where is he? He was on our front porch when we got home. I was like, that just explains him in a nutshell. Yeah. Like, I'm like, you're so lucky you're cute.
Yeah, we've had Buddy and Lily. So she's the OG. She was the first that we got. Yeah. And when we got her, we had a roommate, and our roommate had another dog, Stu. Okay. Shout out Stu, R.I.P. He was old when we were there. Yeah. And I will say if you want an easy way to train a puppy, get them with a dog that's well trained. Yeah. And it kind of takes out half the work. So there was one morning we were just kind of hanging out, and it was one of those moments where we were just hanging. I was like, man, it's quiet. It's quiet. What's going on? Because we let the dogs out. Yeah. Somebody took the trash can around the back, didn't shut the gate. So we're like, oh, the dogs are out. And this is a puppy and an older dog. So we're freaking out, running around. My wife grabs the box of treats and a leash and just takes off. She's out in the neighborhood. I'm like, all right, if I was a dog, where would I go? So I go out the back in the gate and I'm like walking around. There was a whole shopping center behind where we were living at the time. So I'm like, man, this is so crazy. Like I've never experienced, like I didn't have a dog as a kid. So I was like, this is new to me. I don't know. So I'm like sitting here, I'm like, well, okay, I'd probably go over here.
Yeah.
So my wife was like, I'm going to go to the end of the neighborhood and work back to the house.
Yeah.
You know, we had like this whole plan.
Strategy. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, let me at least go back and shut the gate because then, you know, when we do get him in the house, we can just get one in the house and then keep looking. So I went back and shut the gate. And then for whatever reason, I had to go. I think I forgot the leash or something. I had to go back. So, and I'm like sitting in the kitchen, like, man, I can't believe this. And I see the gate moving. And I'm like, there's no way. So I went out there, opened the gate, and there comes Lily just trotting in the back.
Stop.
And
she knows who feeds her.
And then Stu kind of came, not much after, kind of came walking up to the front of the house because we moved in with that person.
Yeah.
And so he knew the neighbor.
Yeah.
So, but man, they got in the house and we were like, okay, they're back. I was like, oh, they smell. They got into something. And there was a rainwater kind of gutter runoff. So my guess is they went out the back. They went down the back because it was like a row of townhouses. Yeah. So they went down the row of townhouses, went down the hill, found the water, rolled around, did their thing, and then came back up the hill. Was never near the street. Was never. So, but man,
smart.
They smell so bad. Yeah. But we got them and everything was good.
Yeah, they probably used their scent. And found their way home. Yeah.
That was because then, you know, my wife's still kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
So I called her. I was like, did you find him yet? And she's like, no. And she's like starting to cry. I'm like, good, because I found both of them. So you can come back now. And she's like, really? I was like, yeah. She goes, okay. And then like got home and I was like, we had to do a little bit of investigating of who took the trash out last and everything. And we don't know who it was. Yeah. I don't think it was, I think it was like we had a, you know, back in the day, we had friends over and a party and this and that. So I think it was somebody that was just a guest.
Yeah.
And
didn't think about it.
You don't think about closing the gate. You know, I'm guilty of it. But, it's very interesting. So like we got Lily when she was, I mean, there's a picture. If I find it, I'll pop it up on the screen. I don't know. But she was only a couple weeks old. It was right around July. And it was a July 4th party. And of course, we brought her, we had a new puppy. Yeah. So she was like laying, we freaked out because we were in like somebody's apartment. And we brought her, and they're like, yeah, bring, you know, whatever. We're all hanging out. And we couldn't find her. And she was in this small little ball in the corner behind like a basketball.
Oh my gosh.
And just passed out. And we're like,
good thing she wasn't. Our other dog that we have, Tank, about 7 years ago, it was 4th of July and we were gone and somebody was house sitting and he's terrified of fireworks. And we lived in Stevenson. He ran away.
Oh, no.
And a week later, he was gone for a week. We told our kids he was on vacation. And he was in the Berkeley County Animal Shelter. He ran it was like as the crow flies, like 20 miles. He ran. Actually, somebody picked him up, but he's not friendly with other dogs. And they had another dog that he was not being friendly with. He's more friendly now that he's old and just like doesn't have the energy to not to be nice.
When they're younger.
But he was not super friendly. And so they took him to the shelter and we were like calling around to shelters and looking on Facebook pages and all the things. And we found him a week later, but it was 4th of July weekend. And so now we're like, he used to like freak out and at any like storm and things, but he again doesn't have the energy or he's very old now. So
he's like,
but I'm interested to see how Buck does with those. Like he's not schizo or, you know, at all. Like that was one of the things we had to ensure that he wasn't like easily, like startled. So I would take him to like Lowe's and Tractor Supply and those automatic doors and have people shut doors behind us. And just because like you don't want a dog that's like constantly, you know, freaking out. Yeah. So that was one of the prerequisites, if you will, that we had to ensure he was okay with before Bill let us bring him down to Florida. But yeah, it'll be interesting. He's pretty wild. So I wonder, he's why it's so funny. He has like split personality is what I say.
When the vest comes
on, he knows. And it's funny, in public, I do put the vest on him and I've had to make sure that he understands that he's not working then. But I do it for like, you know, because people are like, oh, mole dog. And then it kind of, you know, gives me an opportunity to share about our business.
Literally walking billboard.
Yeah. But the other piece of it is like, I just don't want people coming up to me all the time and be like, can I pet your dog? I mean, I don't care. Like, it's cute when kids or whatever, but it's like, just sit right here and be with me, you know?
It says mold dog, but it's because he's just a moldy dog.
Yeah.
That's
So,
funny.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming
thanks
on
for having me.
And sharing a lot of information. I feel like I've learned a lot, which is selfishly the goal of this, right? I love talking to other businesses, but I'm also like, okay, what can I learn?
Yeah.
You know?
Always, if you take away anything, get a moisture meter for your house. Every homeowner should have one. They're pretty cheap on Amazon, but it's just a really good little tool to like check your, around your toilets and things like that occasionally. Because again, those things aren't going to be necessarily things that you visually see.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll
they're
do
known
this.
for,
How about this? We will send me which one you would recommend or one that you would buy.
It's like $40.
I'm going to put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Or in the comments. I'm going to put it in the description.
Cool.
So if that is your homework for watching this, is to go buy.
Get yourself a moisture meter.
A moisture meter.
Yep.
I'm going to go buy 2.
Yeah.
There's going to be a link down below to check one out. We can give options, whatever kind of we want to push.
The one I use is really inexpensive. They're a tool in the toolbox. They're only going to get about an inch into the surface. So there could still be problems behind it that you're not picking up. But if you have an active leak or something going on, you can check, and it's really nice to just have that.
That's smart. And then I'll also put website, all your contact information, everything for anybody that's watching this.
Yep.
Your stuff's going to be in the descriptions.
Yep.
Or description.
Yeah.
Not plural. To be able to contact you, to reach out, if they have questions.
You see me driving around town. My license plate is Mold Dog.
Nice.
I'll have a sticker on the back of it here soon, but he's with me most of the time. So if you see me or the car, we're going to an inspection, or you can always stop. And I had somebody come up to me at Lowe's and book an inspection. I was like, I wasn't expecting this, but
it
great.
happens. Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Go check out the website. Tap in if you have any questions, and with that, we are done.
All right.